All right. Good morning, everyone. This is Youngstown's Talk Channel here on this Friday morning. It's looking kind of dreary here in Youngstown. As you can see, my co-host, co-pilot Kellen is off today, so we will take it alone until BJ gets here, and maybe BJ can sit in and share some of his perspective on things that are happening. That things have been dominating the news. Obviously, we'll talk about, but something in Ohio about voting. By the way, if you want to call 330-595-1600 and you could get on the program with me today. So the SAVE Act made its way through the House. And, these are one of those issues that probably shouldn't be, there shouldn't be as much conflict as it is with it. Because I think everybody could agree that having integrity of elections and making sure that everybody who wants to vote can vote should be at the ultimate priorities for everyone. And when some of us feel like we were a little too lax on letting people vote without making sure that they should be legally voting in an election. And I think we should take lots of precautions, because if you don't take it serious and you don't make it sacred and you don't put effort on making sure that it's accurate, then the people who are doing it dilutes their vote. You want to make sure that your vote it has a value of one. And all it takes is one vote that shouldn't be there that could offset your vote. And now you've brought a legitimate vote down to a zero. And so the SAVE Act is basically is making sure that you have have proof either through Social Security, either through a driver's license, passport, or I think it's called like True ID or something like that. And basically it's filtering out the people that shouldn't be voting and making sure that those votes count. Now, I will hear the criticisms about negating or making it more difficult for certain people to vote. Someone who might not be able to afford any of the IDs. So an important point is making it so that it's cost free, and so that you don't have somebody who decides not to get authorized to vote and in with everything else. BJ, Kellen is not here today, so why don't you pull up a chair if you can and dance with me in this topic. So anyway, so having through legislation, having a way so that we could, you have to do due diligence. So it's not going to be the most convenient or easiest thing, because the point of making sure something is accurate, when you go through to get permitted to buy a firearm, it's not the easiest thing to get a firearm, but we make sure that only people who should be buying firearms are buying firearms. And we all kind of all agree that if we want it to be accurate, we just have to invest the time and resources into it. So you make the objection of okay, well, it's harder for some people to get the proper IDs. And so I don't necessarily think we should make it easy, because that basically defies the reason you're doing this on anyway. But you could use the advocacy groups that help people to get things that you're, contending that is difficult to do. And rather than fighting the legislation, put that political effort into helping those people, whether or not it's somebody needs, someone needs to be registered. So put together caravans of taking people to the places and arming them with literature and giving them what they need to get registered. And so I don't think that's an unreasonable deal. So talking about the SAVE Act that's going through the Ohio legislature. Do you need brought up to speed? Are you familiar?
You should probably bring me up to speed.
All right. So SAVE Act is basically saying that that you, in order to vote, or to register to vote, you have to prove citizenship, and you are you meet all the requirements to be a voter. And critics against this are saying that some people in our communities have a difficult time getting a driver's license, a passport, an ID, or something that qualifies them for that. So if you have that person, then they can't vote because they can't get any of the identifications or proof that they are a citizen. So that's point number one, feelings.
I mean, didn't we manage to get a stimulus check to everybody?
Like, we did.
We get a,
but lots of fraud in that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess
lots of fraud.
I mean, there's got to be a way to get everybody like just a generalized ID. You know what I mean? I would think that there's a way to get everybody an ID. I mean, there should be ways around that to be able to get,
making it legit, it's satisfying both things, making it easy as it can be so that it's not a barrier. And two, it legitimately prove that you were a citizen and should be allowed to and entitled to vote. I mean, you can do both. I mean, firearms was the example I used. You want it to go far enough that what regulations you put in place to make sure that the person buying the firearm should be buying a firearm. It can go overboard for sure and get in the way of true people that should be able to. It's just too difficult for them to happen. We got to do something. It can't just be wide open where you're able to vote and there's no requirements. Like we talked last week about a couple people showing up at a polling location voting. Only thing they did was signature match, and there wasn't any kind of proof of voting. Yeah. Right. So I think they're too lax at this point. Would you agree with that? Yeah. I mean, but yeah, like I said, we're one of the most advanced countries in the world. I would think that we should be able to figure out a way to get everybody. You should. But we got creative with allowing people to participate in everything, whether or not it's illegal immigration. We're so lax on everything. Mm-hmm. In the private world, we don't do that because what happens is when you don't do due diligence, you leave yourself open to the liability of not knowing something, right? So it's good common sense to make sure that if you have a person collecting a check or participating in the workforce or casting a vote or whatever, that you have ways of making sure that they should be doing those things. 330-595-1600. Trisha says, morning, guys. I'm a WB grad now living in Ponte Verde Beach, Florida. It's great to listen to you, and I love your insight. I appreciate you. I'm missing home. So Florida, let's compare weather between Florida, what it's like right now, and Ohio. And trust me, from weather standards, you'd probably prefer Florida today. Yeah, my parents are in Florida right now too, and I'm jealous of them. A little bit of sunshine. That's what we need. That's why everybody's so grumpy, is that we haven't had sunshine in about a week. Yeah, it has been rough this week. So yeah. All right. So that's the SAVE Act. More tariff talks. This is, like I said, I haven't really changed my position on it. This is getting nuts with what's happening with China. And so I guess switching into, as a consumer, like, you can't control what the geopolitical policies are going to be or who we're going to be slapping new tariffs on tomorrow, who's negotiating down. So you got to be ready for anything. You got to be ready for the commodities that you buy going up or down in price and what the heck it is that you're going to do. So the push of buying local and supporting industries that start to pop up now, because now they have a chance to be able to sell, because now they're not at a disadvantage in China or from the China products. I've got to support those people. So you, as a consumer, you got the choices to make. You buy the cheap thing that shows up on your doorstep in 2 days that it was sourced and it may go up in price, or do you start digging now for things that you can buy locally or, in the United States that cost more money? I mean, I think not everybody, but you always try to support local to a degree. You know what I mean? As long as it's not like completely exorbitantly more expensive than the foreign whatever. You try to support local whenever you can. You know what I mean? That's pretty much, as long as like I said, as long as the cost isn't like so far out of whack that that it's really going to kind of put a hurting on your wallet. Yeah, and I think that for the last couple decades, all of our retail have been so dependent on China imports that you could walk after these tariffs, come down to it, and the stuff that they already had in inventory starts being replaced with other things. Two things are going to happen. Either you're going to walk into Target and you're going to look at their shelves and you're going to get sticker shock because now there's different stuff on the shelves and it all costs way more than you're used to seeing, or they're just barren spots on the shelves because there are no adequate, there are no adequate competing products in those spaces. I mean,
I'm just curious to see what happens with all this, and like in the long term. You know what I mean? I mean, everybody kind of panics when anything sort of changes or anything comes. But yeah, I'm just curious to see what happens over the course of the next year. You know, a year from now, what are prices like? What did these tariffs work? Did they not work? You know what I mean? Like, so, yeah, I'm sort of the attitude of wait and see.
Yeah, it's like I said, when the election was won, I said this is going to be Wild West. This is going to be the most interesting part in politics that we've had in a long time, because you know, usually you trust politicians to do things that are expedient for their political careers, and so they don't take big risks and make big gambles with everybody's portfolio. And this administration is different. They're going to do the things, and they're going to throw a little bit of caution to the wind, and it's a scary ride. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, whatever side you're on, I think I said this to you before. More has happened in a shorter period of time of this administration than of any other in my entire life. We could probably combine everything that came up my whole life. More has happened in the months that we've just had since just in this year. So yeah, it's Wild West. Like
are there any W's or L's that you have come across so far that you weren't anticipating were going to be such? So a couple of things you liked and things you haven't liked. Don't really care.
You're talking to the wrong guy. I'm so not politics guy, you know what I mean? So you're talking to the wrong guy here for this. But no, like I said, I'm more of a wait and see. I'm not a sky is falling sort of guy. Like, I don't go overboard when you see all these. Luke and I talked about it yesterday. Like, you see all these just crazy reactions one way or the other. You know what I mean? Where it's just everybody's like, oh, sort of these, again, this guy's falling sort of reactions that you get on social media and stuff. And I'm not that person. You know what I mean? I'll let's wait and see. Just take a step back. And
I think that's a healthier place to be in, honestly, because you can do so little. I mean, it's good to know stuff.
Yeah.
But to have fanatical. Yeah, exactly.
I can't do anything about it anyway. You know what I mean? So why am I getting worked up about it?
Right. And, you kind of know what's good for. The problem is we're in such a predicament because of everything that's happened coming up to this point. So, we're watching these federal budgets that are just wrought with fraud and abuse. So every time they come to you and say, hey, we need a little bit more taxes from you, you go to the list of things that they were pissing away, and you try to find the amount that you paid on that list and say, oh, they taught lesbian dance to frogs in Uruguay. And there's the money that I paid in my taxes went to that. And you're like, should I give more? We need more frogs to be, professional lesbian dance instructors? And it just blows my mind about how tolerant we are to even this tax day should be like, all right, we're the government. We screwed everything up. We shouldn't be taking a dime from you until we get this figured out. No taxes this year until we get our shit together.
Yeah. I mean, I think you might have mentioned this before. You said more of there was the idea of giving people stimulus checks, but I think your idea was it'd be better to cut them a big tax break instead of doing that but explain that to me, why you think that would be better.
Okay, so right now we have about $37 trillion in debt. And so basically we issue these treasury bills, and other economies, including China, buy up a bunch of our debt, right? And they're an enemy. And so if they could do this today, they could start to cash those T-bills back to the United States and force our government to get a huge outgoing of cash that they're demanding right now on those T-bills. So it's a leverage chip. So if we do that on purpose, where we take $2 trillion in savings from what we were hitting, balance it first. So instead of losing $2 trillion, now we're at balanced budget, and then we claw back another $2 trillion, buy some of those T-bills back before they're demanded, and take some of the debt off of the street so it can't be leveraged against us. I mean, it's great that other countries want to buy our debt, right? But if they accumulate so much, they can definitely leverage us in different departments. And it's a national security play more than anything.
I gotcha. Did you see how many views our West Branch segment got yesterday?
No, how was it?
31,000.
Oh, that's good. Good. I see it got Cleveland attention as well.
It did, yeah. So, yeah, it's some crazy stuff going on down there. But I'm sure Luke and I will touch on.
What if it got national? What if it became an example of local politics that makes some kind of national splash? That would be amazing.
it might. I mean, there's more unraveling to this story every day. Some of the other rumors and stuff that have just come up since we broadcast yesterday has been. So yeah, there's people, they're kind of scrambling down there.
For sure. But local politics never gets that type of attention. So can you imagine the person that's used to dealing with almost nobody looking at their work and not really now all of a sudden national people are investigating you and looking into what you're doing? Wouldn't want to be that dude at all.
Probably should have thought this through before letting this guy go. You know what I mean? Like it was not a well thought out thing. So you're going to get rid of the most, a beloved coach for decades, like out of nowhere with no evidence to back anything up.
Hey, has he spoke out yet?
Yeah. He had a statement yesterday.
Okay.
You love the statement yesterday. Yeah. And the super short of it is they didn't have really recourse to do it. Just a school board member doesn't like him. It has to do with playing time, has to do with, so it's just, somebody's a personal vendetta kind of against him for how he's running the team or how he, didn't play somebody enough or whatever. It's just small town politics.
Yep. Yeah. All right, let's go to the phones. I'm guessing I know who this is. Caller, you're on.
They're making me work today, so I'm listening to you two. It's Luke. What's up?
How are you?
I'm good. Hi, BJ. How's my new friend?
What's up, Luke?
Yeah, you guys immediately talk about West Branch. This is like haunting my dreams now at this point. And I think, Joe, talk about like national news and that kind of stuff and it catching wind. The problem is this stuff has been going on at schools, not just in Ohio, but like everywhere in our area with coaches and getting removed because of upset parents. And I think, and we kind of touched on this yesterday, these schools, these school leaders, these old school people that are used to forcing the school's hand because they got money and they got influence in these areas, they're not used to a platform like social media being able to fight back. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like South Range learned a lesson with getting rid of those open enrollment IEP kids. They're used to doing this stuff and sweeping it under the rug, and nobody notices until it's too late. But that's not happening anymore. And these schools and these school leaders, they're going to have to learn a lesson one way or another that it's not going to happen anymore without people noticing.
Now, in the media, has anybody taken a support angle and defended the schools or the administrators?
No. Well, the media, I mean, the media never does anyways. They're just kind of these are the facts and that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I haven't, like some of the social media accounts other than us have definitely taken the side of Coach DeShields, right? And I haven't seen one thing yet. BJ, have you taken the side of the school?
Yeah, there have been a couple, but they're real sort of muted, and it's just it's nothing substantiated. You know what I mean? Like there's no evidence. There's sort of people throwing out rumors like, oh, well, if you knew what really happened, and it's like, well, I do know what really happened. You know what I mean? So yeah, right. that sort of thing. But it's very, very few. I would say it's like 98% to 2% as far as support versus, yeah.
And here's the thing: like you hear these rumors, like, oh, something bad happened, and it's not been released yet. And I think this dude, like when these people say that, he's still teaching at the school every day. And we touched on this yesterday. He would be fired if something did happen, right? Like that. He wouldn't be working there right now. So that leads me to believe, again, it's got to be parents pushing. It's got to be board members pushing this guy to be removed. If it was something shady, he'd be gone, right? Like that's the bottom line. So, and I've had so many people, I got off 2 phone calls this morning on my cell phone saying, thanks for what you guys are doing to bring light to this. This guy's a good guy. I've had players reach out to us. I've had parents. I've had faculty, coaches, everybody literally messaging and calling us saying, thank you for doing what you're doing because this guy's getting railroaded. So the more it goes into that, the more I think there's something shady going on. So
100%. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Luke. Appreciate it, man.
All right. See you, buddy. Bye-bye.
Luke.
All right. And I do have to point out that, small government guy like me, thinking that local level and state politics is way more controllable than national politics.
Mhm.
Because had this been a story on the national level, let's just say we went into a department and we had misdeeds and stealing money and whatever, you would have 98% condemnation if it were a local school district doing the same thing that the government. But somehow they figured out how to get the media to almost defend the misdeeds and be on the supporting, not looking at it and not digging into it. So media watchdogging, and I know when local media sources cover national stuff, they do the same kind of thing. They let on cover fire depending on what agency's handing the story down to them. But when it comes to this local stuff, you see how it takes a completely different angle.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think part of it also too is like what I was saying before, you know what I mean, with local politics. Like I don't get worked up on national politics stuff because there's not a whole heck of a lot I can do about any of that. But local stuff, I mean, you can make a difference locally. You know what I mean?
That's it.
100%. So I mean, I think it'll be an interesting year. I mean, we're seeing that with West Branch and stuff. We're getting into Youngstown and stuff. I'm curious to see when the mayor race comes back up. You know what I mean? I think you're going to see a lot more people involved this time around because I mean, you can actually make a difference on. Like I said, if you're going to vote in the smaller elections, you know what I mean?
Right.
Your vote counts a lot more. You can do a lot more in smaller elections than you can in the national.
Did you see the mayor's response to Canzanetta's letter, by the way?
No.
Okay.
I did not.
So his defense, okay, if those of you who didn't hear that show on Monday or Tuesday, so Canzanetta wrote a letter that said, the downtown businesses, the people that have been investing into keeping things open, even through road constructions and buildings blowing up and the COVID shutdowns and whatnot, you have this group of businesses that have hung in there. And it was a demand and, begging for attention from the administration to offer help and support. Just help us keep, we're on shaky ground as it is, and we just need the support. And so you think this was like a softball. All the administration had to do was say, downtown people, we love you. We're going to do everything we can. Even though they don't do anything, they would have taken a position that we're allies, right? They did not do that.
Why is it so hard for Tito Brown to communicate with people? I don't understand why he can't just pick up he gets indignant too. Like he gets angry when you ask him about it or you call him out. Like, why haven't you talked to these people? Like that's what puts me off so much about him. It's like, dude, this isn't that hard. Like, it's not that hard to communicate, pick up a phone or like just offer your support or like say anything reassuring. Like he says nothing. Like, and he almost takes the other side, which is like, I don't understand. I don't understand Tito Brown and how he deals with certain things, and especially the whole downtown situation. I don't get it at all.
Well, his response to Mark's letter was that the neighborhoods need support too.
Okay, yeah.
Right. Instead of saying, we're going to do the neighborhoods and we're going to support. I mean, he's dealing in a fallacy that there's limited resources. It's a one or the other type of thing. Either we patrol our neighborhoods and infuse cash into cleaning up neighborhoods and installing infrastructure and beautifying and whatever. At the same time, you can do the same thing for businesses, but I don't get it. Doesn't make sense.
Youngstown also has correct me if I'm wrong here, one of the highest tax rates too. Like I pay a lot in taxes, and I mean,
yes, they do.
And I come down Mahoning Avenue every day to get to work, and it's like
Does it feel like it?
It's like a bomb hit Mahoning Avenue. You know what I mean? So I don't understand. For as much money as we pay in taxes in Youngstown for city, where's all of it going? What's, you know what I mean? Like there's just, I don't know. I don't think that's this administration problem. I think it's been a problem in Youngstown politics for a long time. But it just I will be curious to see, like I said, the next mayor race, what happens, what sort of issues get tackled, what sort of things, what things Tito rolls out to try to get reelected, you know what I mean, and that sort of thing too. So yeah, it'll be curious. I'll be curious to see.
So, but we had a population at one point that was a lot grander than it is today, and so a lot of our bureaucracies and our government services and how the city operates was used to having a lot more revenue, coming in. So you have two choices, right? If you have less people, you have to offset and keep all of the stuff that was there to support a bigger population, right? Or you have to scale your operations down to match what the citizens are. So it's almost like if I were to buy in and say, hey, we're going to get an infusion of population, and then we're going to be able to act like big city Youngstown instead of smaller Youngstown, that's the path they chose. They want to keep the services the way that it was before. It's a very expensive city to operate with a diminishing population.
Yeah. Again, I feel like an idiot on this show here today. So we're talking politics. I'm like, you want to talk about ACDC? They opened their door last night. No, but yeah, I don't. I'm not a. But yeah, just to because I'm an idiot when it comes to politics and stuff like that. It's stuff. So, but I mean, just if I'm seeing certain stuff, it's like I know other people are.
All you want is competency. You want that's not the game that you're playing. You wish the people that were playing the game were just going to do a good job at it, and so you wouldn't have to hear about it or pay attention to it,
or at least lie to me. Be good at lying to me. Lie to me and tell me you're doing something. All right, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like, I'll just go about my way.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, if it's boring and nobody pays attention to it, there's a lot less money that flows through there because you get less corruption. When it doesn't have this direct access to all of that sweet government cash.
Yeah.
So Tracy says that it's too little, too late. I think Tito is going to have a really rough run at getting reelected. I think Derek represents a very good. He's going to be a good candidate. He's going to put up a nice fight.
Derek has a lot of good faith in the city too. You know what I mean? And he kind of, he would certainly represent a lot of change, like I said, in Youngstown. And again, with everything he's done with the flea and everything else too. I mean, he's active in the community. I'll be curious to see him. Who else is running? There was John White, the other one.
Yes.
And then there's somebody else too that somebody put up the other day, and I can't remember who. Forgive me if somebody knows out there who's all running for mayor this next time. But I'll be curious to hear. I'll be curious to hear his opponents and stuff like this as we get there. Is that election this fall?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The one thing I'm worried about though with Derek, I like him as a dude, but I don't necessarily. He is such a good, nice guy, and I don't want politics to wreck somebody who I really have an affinity for.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think when he gets in there, it's like how much will he be able to do once he gets in there? You know what I mean? Like, or how much when he sees kind of how it operates and how it works, he's going to be like, oh shit. I don't know that I want this.
Kellen says, that expression people use that say, "But did you die?" Let's make Trump shirts with that slogan for the public. And then Jerry says, the Chapo isn't a good look for Elon today, LOL. What's that in reference to?
I don't know.
The Chapo. Okay, well, explain a little bit more, Jared, because I must have missed something. I was away from all of the news cycles from yesterday, so obviously something happened. I believe, we're going to have Elon came up in the news 2 days ago about his term being served as part of Doge. He's going to be leaving, being the sort of like the head of that movement in May. So he's going to serve his appointment. And the question was whether or not his philosophies and whatever their strategies were continues after he's not in the chair representing that, that position. I think once he moves away from it, I mean, all of the wheels have been put into motion. I think it continues on just the way that it has, even if he's not the figurehead for it.
Yeah, I think it will. I think he's got the ball rolling enough that, just hand it off to people that are competent to sort of keep doing what he's doing. You know what I mean?
And if you notice that all the fraud and waste, there has been 0 indictments and nobody has gone to prison yet for defrauding the government. So that's an interesting.
Yeah.
One thing to clean it up, but no accountability equals. It's a waiting game. Let's just say you had a position at the trough. You were just getting that sweet government money in and you didn't have to do much for it. And that dude comes along and creates some disturbances and disruptions into that free money that's coming in. I mean, do you say, I'm just going to outweight this guy, and I know that I made a bunch of money before, I'm going to take a pause for 6 months where I can't get to it, wait till he's not in the picture again, and return the slop to the trough again? I mean, that would be a good strategy.
Some people got some awful generous buyouts too.
They did too.
Like, man, where's my my check, man?
That's it. It's interesting. I did think that when I saw just how many people were getting that money, I think to myself, like, am I the only person in America that wasn't getting a free check from the government all along? And was I stupid for not, being a parasite that way?
I think we brought this guy up too. That guy, Matthew Lesko, that wears like the Riddler outfit, whatever, and was talking about all the free money. Remember that guy?
I remember him.
Is that guy going out of business now? All his programs are done.
God.
He had to get that book, and he was.
Does he still do it?
I think he does still do it. I think he still has a YouTube channel. But yeah, like that dude, like, is Elon going to put that guy out of business? I wonder, because he was barking for years about getting that free government money. Man, we should have been listening to that guy.
I wonder if a lot of those older school things come back and we start seeing it again, because instead of, when we double the size of government and the amount of employees, and the easiest way is to get granted. One of the biggest industries in our area was grant writers, right? Having access to government money incoming, qualifying for it, getting those free checks to come in, hitting all the compliancy and standards, so you keep getting that free government money. That washes out. Something's got to replace it, right? So, let's see. Oh, the hat. Okay. And Elon, the damn typo. Okay. Thank you, Jared. 330-595-1600. There was a full-blown cabinet meeting yesterday, and RFK is the one I want to talk about. Did you see his prediction for September?
You're throwing fastballs to a catcher with no mitt over here.
So RFK Jr. said by September of this year, he is going to find the link to autism and why it is double, triple, quadrupled over the last decade. And his critics are like, 30 years of research, and in 4 months, you're going to come up with the connection of what we're doing and what is causing this autism.
Why would people criticize that, though? Like, if he's
don't know. Wouldn't we want to know that? Yeah. Wouldn't we?
Why? If people just like to criticize everything, man. If they don't like somebody, but I don't know what's the problem with that. Like, yeah, all right, yep. Have at it, man. You know what I mean?
Well, they think he's a quack, and they think his information is going to be conspiratorial. All right. So he's going to make some link to a vaccine or a metal in the drinking water or fluoride or too much carbohydrates in the diet or too much sugars, something like that. And if you come out, even if it's tested and true and you can prove it and you've got scientists say that it would happen, if it's one of those things, you will get immediate pushback no matter what.
People, I don't that seems like a good thing. I don't understand why people push back on everything. Like everything's like
should be cheering.
Like, like, oh, let's get rid of autism. No. Let's defend autism. What? Yeah, I don't get it, man. I don't get it. This is why I stay out of politics, because like I don't understand why people get so enraged about stuff. It just like that seems like a good idea. I don't find any problem with that. Yeah, if you can find a way to do it. Because obviously I haven't done anything about it for years. So it's just like, yeah, like the alternative is just like, oh yeah, well, whatever. Like,
what kind of mind control can bring people to the point? Like, we'll use the school thing. Coach gets fired. It's probably some shady stuff going on where somebody's just mad at him and he loses his job. What kind of mind control, if you wanted to get a contingent of the populace and somehow get them to support firing that coach and do it with passion and anger and protest signs and chanting? Like, it would take a lot.
Yeah, that seems to be what's happening, man. Like everybody like, oh, this could be a good thing. Yeah, no.
No, better not do that.
Don't even try. Oh, okay. Well, then what do you just? I think people just like to sit around and complain all the time. I think that's the big. Everybody just wants to bitch all the time. I think. Yeah, it's like they get off at it. I don't know if you saw this. Joe Rogan shared a thing. I'm going to butcher this, but he shared an old clip from, I think it was the 80s, maybe, was it John Cleese, I believe, talking. He gave an explanation of why people are, why people like to be outraged, or why people like to be hard left or hard right, and the way he explained it was brilliant. We'll have to post that clip in the comments when we're done here. But
give me the summary, because I don't remember seeing that one.
So basically, he had a great. John Cleese had he basically it's like a 2 or 3 minute like clip of why people he was almost encouraging people to be outraged or to be hard left or hard right, because it's like, oh, you have this like gang to root for, and it's like, so how he phrased it was so kind of so kind of matter of fact, but I will give you the link. But yeah, just a kind of an explanation of why people go so hard right or so hard left.
And it should be insulting when you you're sort of targeted in that you were overzealous and you put yourself in that camp, because it feels good to be amongst people who,
Right.
even if you're dealing with, super bad information, you still have the other people that also believe in that super bad information, and you'll get support and whatnot. So
it's kind of like the rah-rah being on a team.
That's exactly right.
That was what they kind of linked it to. Yeah.
Yep. Doreen says RFK has no background in medicine is my issue with him. But what if somebody who doesn't have the background in medicine comes up with the right answer? Should we not celebrate someone who, got taken out of the pharmaceutical and medicine paradigm and was able to use logic and reason and access to expertise and assembled the solution when you weren't that expert yourself? Because I hear that in school districts all the time. They make, testing, they put federal mandates on testing, but they don't include a teacher. So if I'm a non-teacher, then I don't have the ability to put curriculum or testing standards in. And so the expertise or the authority on something has to come from a credentialed person who's inside. But the thing is, how can you be an objective person when you're inside the machine? Most of the objectivity is going to come from someone who's just looking at it, doesn't have a favorite, doesn't have something to gain by it. So if I came up with good science, okay, and I made all of my money with pharmaceuticals, what are the chances that the end result of my research would be something that supports whatever I have interest in? Mm-hmm. So if I make money on pharmaceuticals, what do you want to bet that the research proves that pharmaceuticals are the answer, versus somebody who doesn't have interest in either way? Mm-hmm. I just want to solve the problem. I want there not to be autism. The lobbyists on this side, they don't pay me any money. The lobbyists on this side don't pay me any money. I just want to find some truth. That's the person that I would trust over the specializations, especially in this climate. Julie says, proof and confirmation of the medical community will convince me, not a former heroin addict. And yeah, you can, and it's all justified in taking the presenter and being more suspicious if you don't like the character of the person. But from a meritocracy standpoint, if that person ends up being right, you get to overcome a whole lot of, character flaws or history or bad decisions or whatever. That, truth is truth, and whoever comes up with it, I'm a fan of them.
Isn't one of the tenets of successful business to hire people that are smarter than you?
100%.
So I mean, that's kind of what they're doing. That's what I think. That's what at least from my perspective, that's what it seems like they're doing anyway.
Yeah, Henry Ford was one of my favorite stories. He was actually taken in front of, he was in a court and he was being grilled by, I don't know if it was a prosecutor at the time, but they were trying to embarrass him that he didn't know everything there was. Okay. So they asked him questions about, dates that wars happened and how many soldiers were in there, because they were trying to prove the guy was a freaking numbskull. And his response stuck with me ever since. He said, I have a red button on my desk. If I hit that red button, or a red phone or whatever, if I use that apparatus, I have access to every detail and data and specialized knowledge that I could ever need. So if RFK, if you put him in the Henry Ford position, he doesn't have to know everything, but he has to have people around him that he can go fetch the knowledge when he needs it to be able to take that strategy. So does he have to have all the information? One guy? No, you just have to have an entire department that is definitely smarter than the figurehead.
Yeah.
And I agree with the way that this Republican administration did things. We're assembling people outside of the Republican sphere. I mean, you have Democrats that are positioned in a Republican cabinet. When's the last time you remember a Democrat putting a Republican in one of those cabinet positions? It's been a while.
Yeah.
If at all, if it's ever happened. All right. History of HHS with medical background. Lewis Wade Sullivan, 1989 to 1993. Yes, medical doctor, founding a dean of Morehouse School of Medicine. Donna Shalala, 1993 to 2001. Somewhat not a doctor, but had experience in education and health policy. Tommy Thompson, 2001, 2005. Governor, no formal medical background. these are all people that were in HHS and were not a medical doctor. So what has changed where that's a proper criticism in the right now that he's not a medical doctor, and somehow I think you want to diminish what he has to say, and that just happens to be one of the things in your arsenal. Character assassination, not coming from an authority position or whatnot. So thank you, Luke, for providing more details and dates. I love that about him. He'll do the on-the-fly research. Let's see. Oh, there's a phone call. Let's go to the phone lines. All right, 17, you're on.
Yeah, I just see RFK Jr. as a high-profile figure who can call attention to these issues and get a bunch of scientists together in their research and be able to present it. He's very good at science issues, you know. And it's the same thing like when COVID first came out, Dr. Zev Zelensky came up with the protocol that worked for almost all of his patients, and it included hydroxychloroquine, vitamin C and D, zinc. So Trump mentioned that at a press conference. You know, he's like, some doctors have had success with this in treating COVID patients. And the media just like assaulted him. You're not a doctor. You can't say that. All he was doing as a high profile figure, president of the United States, is raising the profile of Dr. Zev Zelensky, who came up with this brilliant protocol. The next thing you know, hydroxychloroquine was like not allowed to be prescribed for COVID. So this is how, you know, it's just that President Trump, RFK Jr., they're actually brave enough to stand up to Big Pharma and just get all the information together and present it. So, you know, I don't know what the problem is. I don't know why people can't just see it that way instead of hating on the person trying to help them.
Yeah. So if somebody comes out and says, I know how to solve all autism, I mean, just like the COVID stuff, you have an idea. The curiosity should be, oh, what did you find? Rather than, oh, you can't do that. You can't try to solve cancer or autism or something.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we've seen, like I said, with COVID. Dr. Zev Zelensky went on the Sean Hannity show and talked about his protocol that I think he said he cured 395 people out of 400. That's how many survived using his protocol. And, you know, President Trump raised the profile. Everyone attacked him. And I think, you know, with RFK Jr., they're just doing the same thing when he's really just trying to help you.
People want solutions, but they want their guy to provide the solutions. You know what I mean?
Well, that's just it too. Yeah.
All right, 17. Thank you for checking in. Okay. Appreciate it. All right. 330-595-1600. Kellen says, I love how Facebook keyboard warriors cry out that RFK doesn't know anything and isn't a doctor, like they know more and have all the answers while also not being doctors. He held his own. I've listened to multiple interviews where on podcasts or on traditional media, his expertise, he might not have the degree, but he is well read. And I think his data, you know, I like when he's positioned with someone who disagrees with him. So they'll try to poke at the actual data and tell him where he's wrong. And I have yet to see something where he was just off in left field. It's more of a, who are you and who do you think you are, being able to, you know, to communicate that. Ally, fear will either propel you or paralyze you. And that is a very big currency in today's deal. Back to the COVID stuff, because we gloss over this and all of us kind of know how it went down because we all pretty much got to experience it. So when you, during the COVID era, someone would come out and say something like ivermectin or using just vitamins and, you know, here's your good, here's good alternatives to just getting the vaccine. They were condemned mightily by every official, right? And so when somebody gets something wrong, does the weight of what they say now diminish? Like the next time they say something with absolute certainty and they were wrong the last time, does it bring down their level a little bit for you?
I guess it sort of depends, but I mean, it depends on how wrong they. I don't know. I mean, I'm not against people like I'm not against curiosity. I'm not against. The only way you're going to solve anything is if you experiment with stuff, or so. All
right, let me rephrase.
Yeah,
this fall, Moped 19, big pandemic. It gets released out of some other country out of a bat farm, right? And they get on TV and they're like, Moped 19 is coming to your communities. Here's what we suggest. Same drill. Put the masks on, get the shot, stay in your house. Now, you remember how effective those words are on COVID-19. Now we got Moped. Is it different for you this time? Are you less compliant? Believe them a little less?
Yeah, I think if it happened again, you would have way more people pushing back against it this time around. One, I just think I think it was more of a case people just don't like being told what to do. And there was a huge pushback on that before. I think you would have, I think you would have double that as far as the response against doing.
Yeah. Like the first time we were willing to do it because they obviously knew more about it than what we were. We were willing to be compliant because why would they make something up? They were just protecting us and whatever. And then being wrong, like I was able to forgive a lot of politicians over the years for saying things that ended up not being true and say, well, it was just bad intel. I couldn't have known. Nobody could have known any better. And then it was like, what's outright lies where they knew the truth, but they said something they knew not to be true. And so when I look back at the COVID, I'm giving it like a 50-50 split. 50% of it was they were just dealing with it as it came and they didn't know any better than, and 50% of it was they needed compliancy for everything else that they needed to do through the deal. So I think half nefarious and half just a little bit wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't against vaccinations or anything like that, and certainly not at the time. But I think I've told you this before too. There was a lot of get the shot, mask up, do all that. There was not a lot of, hey, eat healthier, go exercise. How about eat a salad? And like, you know what I mean? It was all just like, we can't take away your like that. That to me was like, well, no, like when there was proof that the healthier you were, the better you would react to if you got this. That's with any sickness, you know what I mean? Your body's going to react better the healthier you are anyway. But there was no like push for health. It was just all.
What would have been nice is if they forced you to stay in your house. Instead of sending you $2,000, they send you $2,000 worth of groceries that you should be eating, and that would be your shot, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, just there was no health push. You know what I mean? When you're seeing all these people that, and I don't want to speak out of turn here or whatever, but yeah, I would have been nice to see more of a health push than just vaccines and all that when that happened. But yeah, I mean, I agree that they were a lot of. When that happened, they were taking it as it came and stuff, and there was not a lot.
You give them a little grace for that, as long as they stayed honest with you, and when they learned different things, they didn't condemn the people who came up with, like in Joe Rogan's deal. He didn't go down that road, and he talked to his personal physician, and they took a different regimen than everybody else was getting, and it was more natural. There were some medicines, there were some ivermectin, but a lot of it was doses of vitamins, and he bounced back really quick. And so the rest of the world saw something that happened, a proof of concept that maybe there are alternatives. Maybe we don't have to just say every kid gets autism, right? We figure out what's causing it. And even if we're wrong, we pare down the stuff that's unnecessary anyway. And if it might improve and have less autism be a result of it, then so be it. All right, let's see. Is he very good at medical issues? RFK in Samoa and major measles outbreaks. Blacks have a different immunity system. Take vitamin A for measles than an outbreak for vitamin A toxicity. I heard that one a bunch of times too about vitamin A. And, I take a vitamin regimen. I take a lot of vitamins. And I've overdone it a couple times in the vitamin D side of things. And I actually got a couple of lesions on my skin because I overdid it on vitamins. It becomes toxic, just like everything else. But just like you would take and have science field out what's safe and not. Like if you ask the regular people how much vitamin C they should take, they open their vitamin bottle and it's like 10,000 of whatever. They don't know what that means. So a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of sharing on how you should be eating healthy could have been part of that regimen. Let's see. I think government was testing to see how much they can control the masses. That would be a good curiosity, but I don't necessarily think that. I think about it like it was, you have doctors that practice defensive medicine. They know what your liabilities are, and they are doing what, let's just say you meet with your doctor and say, I'm overweight. What should I do, doctor? And the doctor's like, I'm thinking about it from the what I think you'll do versus not do. So even if I had good information, if I thought I would say, hey, go home, eat a salad, get a lot of nutrient dense foods, and if I thought they're not going to do that anyway, so I'm going to tell you the next best thing that constitutes something I think you'll actually do, like cut out salts or something like that, and then the liability of if it goes whatever I tell you to do goes south. Are you going to blame me and sue me into oblivion? Right. So that's going to control the information I give you based on what I think you'll do and what I think you'll do and what you'll sue me for. But the last one is what I fear most. And that is what I have interest in. And if a pharmaceutical rep came and said, anybody who comes in and says this is the drug to give them, and I'll give you $100 for every time that you sell this to a patient. Now, you've covered your liability because now the drug manufacturers, what was your solution? You'll do it because it's just a shot that I'm going to give you in your arm. So it's 100%. And I get a $100 check every time that I issue this to someone. So, but what you've done is you've given the 3 criteria for administering advice goes through that spectrum. And I think the COVID thing was no different. How many of those people got rewarded? How many hospitals got rewarded by pushing the vaccine? The liabilities are no liabilities. Nobody was able to sue no matter what happened. And what you will do, maybe half the population are not going to do their vitamin A regimen and their zinc regimen and their ivermectin regimen. It's leaving too much decision-making on the people. So whereas Carter said that the government was testing it, there might have been a little bit of that. It might have been even our enemies testing to see how we weathered this and whether or not the next, what was that called? Moped 19? When they released Moped 19, how much they think they can get us a second time. Ali said, if there were a healthy push, then all these weight loss shots and companies would be making so much less money. Poor health is very lucrative. 100%. So is autism. So is cancer. So it's all of the, we sculpted it so that there are researchers and people in the medical community that need these things to exist because they write research papers and they get funded by governments. They would not come up to conclusions that make them less money. They have, just like the pharmaceutical reps are giving the doctors an incentive to push the pharmaceuticals, the researchers are giving incentives to keep the problem existing and alive. Do you think if a researcher found the cure for cancer, they would eliminate the necessities of anything pharmaceutical, that they would shelve it and not tell the public about it, never develop it, never research? And do you think that's ever happened?
Depends on the researcher and how tied they are into the money for the treatment. You know what I mean?
If I'm a lobbyist, I know everybody who's getting close, and if somebody's getting close to it, I'm buying their research and I'm putting it on a shelf. It would disrupt a huge industry in the United States.
No, without a doubt.
RFK has shown multiple times that he got more information about something and will take a different stance. It's not fun to hear that we are wrong, but I trust someone that is open about it. I feel like I can trust he will do what is right and helpful rather than what makes him look good. Yeah, you don't take a hard stance on something that you're going to get criticism, and a lot of weak people would buckle and just go along just so that their character and their brand isn't assassinated because they took that hard stand. And thank goodness, I don't know how long I could stay in as a human being if I was trying to do the right thing and I was being assailed in every direction and trying to be destroyed. They've been hinting that there's some kind of sexual scandal that happened in RFK's past, and they're going to float that if we get close to disrupting that chain of operations, that a sex scandal is going to come up and percolate out of the ground. So that Joe's prediction.
I don't care who he had sex with. If it solves these problems. I mean, I don't. As long as it wasn't a kid, you know what I mean. Like, there's not a lot. Yeah. No, there. Can we talk about Joe Rogan for a second?
Yeah, let's do it.
Why do you think, and this is something like I'll see people bash Joe Rogan a lot, and it's almost always sort of the clickbait headline to bash Joe Rogan, whatever. And I don't, if you actually sit and watch Joe Rogan or you've heard his opinions on stuff, like I don't understand, I don't get that. I don't get how he got lumped into the, I guess I kind of do because of but he he's a commentator for UFC and all that, but I don't understand, like if you actually listen to what he says or actually listen to any of his podcasts and not just how something's sort of framed, like he's a knowledgeable guy. I liked him as a stand-up comic prior to him being, the giant podcaster, but
Right.
I don't understand, I guess. I don't understand why he gets so much pushback when he has people on from all scopes. You know what I mean? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, so it was the media and dissemination of information was so controlled prior to podcasting and everybody just being able to say their thing. And he got a platform that diminished the reach of the other professional media people. So that's number one, is you created an enemy because you created a product that was that people liked better, had a larger audience, and was not controllable by forces telling you what you had to say and wouldn't say. And it can't be sculpted by some master they behind the scenes. He does what he feels like doing. Yeah. And I don't think people that they just like people are pushing that RFK is not a doctor. They want a master. They want an authority to be in control of that information, especially when it means that authority will say things you like to hear. When there's a non-authority talking about things and they're saying stuff that you don't like to hear, that's when you're like, we got to uproot this person who shouldn't have the license to be able to talk right now. And let's get back to a professional person who's polished and well-crafted and manicured. This whole media thing, I think in the end, consumers win and the establishment loses, but it's just taking a really long time till we warm up to that. There was a guy, I think it was released yesterday, and he had a lot of criticism that it wasn't balanced, where if you had one part of the discussion, like let's just say somebody said time travel is real, right? We think that he needs to book the next guest, someone who will counter that, someone who will counter that and say it is real. And then through those two conflicting, arguments, the listener will at least be able to weigh both sides of the information. And on radio, that was the case, where if you brought one politician on, you had to bring the other politician and let them weigh it out. It couldn't be skewed. But Joe can take some liberties and just talk to interesting people. His goal is not to be totally balanced. It has to be interesting for the people who are consuming that deal. But it puts you at odds with, do you want your information to be biased? And who do you trust to give you unbiased information? Does your biases come from the gatekeeper, which would be Joe Rogan? If he can get more exposure than the local news, is he gatekeeping and making something more popular just by who he books, not necessarily if the interview's biased or not?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't. He does. He gets a lot of pushback and stuff, but I mean, I see him talking to both sides of the aisle on everything.
That's true.
Like he's a curious guy trying to find information. Has he had some people that are wacky on there? Yeah, of course he has.
Love that.
But it's,
love it.
You know what I mean? Like, he'll go the other way with it too. If he has somebody that's hard right, he's got somebody that'll come on hard left. Like, but I don't get why he gets lumped in and like, so when I see him get sort of criticized, I just don't think people are actually listening to what he's saying or actually listening to the full form or whatever, or they're taking snippets to kind of that fits their,
and he is not a hard right guy. He's not a right guy at all. But the Democrats want to invent an analog, a Joe Rogan of the left, and they've done this over my lifetime. They always take something like they took a Rush Limbaugh and they created an Air America, right? And they try to make a balancing effect there. The Rush Limbaugh, they made a lot of money, and they would, if he was still alive, he'd still be making a ton of money. The Air America struggled to even be relevant because what they think the public needs, they don't need indoctrination. They don't need people telling them how they feel. The Joe Rogan model it's just people who have something interesting to say, regardless of what part of the playing field. The Democrats would just make sure everything that was said had a liberal persuasion, and the public would be like, this feels, curated.
One thing I think the Democrats really screwed up in the last election. I mean, Trump went on Rogan, Trump went on Theo Vaughn. They were open to podcasts into that alternative form of media or alternative form of sort of getting information out there. And I think it humanized Trump in a lot of ways that he went on there and that he did that. Where I think Democrats, they wanted a more structured sort of thing. Like I think he asked Harris to be on the podcast, but Harris wanted it at the White House or didn't want, you know what I mean? Like it was only going to be an hour, and it was sort of they wanted more sort of control over that. Where it was
that's exactly what they
have
would
a conversation. And yeah, I think that's something that the Democratic Party needs to work on. I think it just be more transparent, be more open to these
genuine. Yeah. So if your dude's an idiot, or your dude can't speak, or your dude is brain deficient, right? At least the authenticity comes through in Joe Rogan. It would not come through if Kamala did Joe Rogan and it was based on Joe Rogan's regular rules. I think she would have done pretty well.
I think she would have too. Yeah.
I think when she tries to talk politics, she's very unlikable. She can't articulate her positions. But I think if he would dig down and find out what Kamala's all about, right? Yeah. And I think if he ever got her on that level, she would have her likability would have went through the roof.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. Let's see.
There are loads of people in the Trump administration that observe slavish loyalty. It's all slavish. Yeah. Slavish loyalty to him, not what is right. And well, if you think that there's not also loyalty on every side, I think that's the game of politics. Is you make friends and you make deals and you get support from people. I think if you don't have that, I think the Republicans actually show in the judiciary and in the legislature, you see Republicans joining the Democrats way more often than you see the Democrats joining the Republicans. That is for sure. Kellen says people with TDS get mad at Rogan for even being nice to Musk, Trump, Tulsi, and anyone associated with them. And that's another argument for why Michael Ruley won't do a town hall. All right. They're painting him as a coward, not willing to face down his constituents. But if all the town hall does is give those people who think, Joe Rogan should take the opportunity to beat you down and to accuse you of things and break you. Well, there's a whole part of the constituency that feels the exact same way. If you put me in front of a mic, I'm not going to ask you a question of something that I want to know or have a conversation about. It's going to be me doing what you wish Joe Rogan would do, which is call you an idiot, try to make you look bad, and there's nothing valuable that comes out of that exchange. Let's see. How about talking about due process? Yeah, cool. Joe, what about due process would you like to talk about? Yesterday, there was an order that there was a guy that was deported that shouldn't have been deported for the reasons that the deportation order came down on. So the question is, do you think, and this is another politics thing, I gotta draw you into this. So do you think that illegals, people who are not citizens of this country, should be afforded due process rights, the same due process rights that citizens have and do?
Again, you're throwing fastballs to a catcher with no mitt here. I think it depends on the situation. I think it depends on what. I just think it depends. I mean, that's such a hard issue. It's such a hard issue because you want to be, you want to be sympathetic to people that are just trying to better their lives. At the same time, you can't just let everybody into the country though either too, because it gets taken advantage of. I don't have the answer for this at all. I don't even have, I don't even know where to start with when it comes to immigration and it comes to border policy and all that stuff.
Yeah, and so that's the argument, and I will trust the mechanisms of government to figure out whether or not those rights should be extended to foreigners. And I do think it should be across the board, that you shouldn't have special rights and privileges that don't apply, to everyone at this, at the same time. I have a lot of mistrust with what the judiciary can do politically versus something that is legal. So for instance, a lot of these orders from these district judges that got shot down by the Supreme Court, right? So a lot of victories got handed to the Trump administration, meaning that these judges were shopped. They knew one that would be willing to take a case up and cause some disturbance in the executive branch. What should be the cost? Like if I challenge you and I'm right, then we're like, the machine worked. What if I just pepper you with if somebody wanted to put me out of business, all they would have to do is do 100 lawsuits all at one time, regardless if they were if they were legit or not. And then just me having to respond to those lawsuits would be enough. They would bankrupt me because of what I would have to do to present my case about how the lawsuit was either good or bad or whatever. Right. So just using the machine against me, they would be using the law against me, even if it had no merit, if it didn't cost them anything. If every time somebody threw a junk lawsuit at me, that it cost them $100,000, they'd have to pay me for it and cover my legal fees or whatever, then you associated some kind of value for someone just to use it as a weapon against someone because there's some built-in cost in it. So what do you think a judge should face if they put a junk lawsuit and try to get in the executive's way? Do you think they could go to jail, punitive fines, loss of their privilege to practice in a district court?
Possibly all of that. If it's a junk lawsuit, yeah, possibly all of it. I mean, if you're just throwing out, you're just tying up the legal system with nonsense that has no merit, then yeah, there needs to be something in place. It needs to be something in place against that.
Right. Okay. So to answer your question, Joe threw some other stuff. You can't deport someone. You can't just deport someone without proof that they are a criminal, unless the crime that they are a criminal because they entered the country illegally. So that's one of those things where you've already committed a crime. So committing additional crimes. I know Homan said that he was going to start with the bad crimes, the rapes, the murders, the stuff like that as the first round. But I think if anybody qualifies as a criminal, I don't think, that if you're here legally, due process light. I still want to make sure that we are not catching someone in the net and there was a citizen. Because if you don't do due process on the people who you don't think it's afforded to, then the person that gets caught up in what you thought was a citizen would have been outed in the due process, and then you would know. So I think due process light, to make sure that we're accurate, that you are an illegal, you shouldn't even be here, and that you have committed crimes. Let's see. Joe says they said they could deport anyone, citizen or not. Yeah, I don't think that's correct. And if that's the case, I agree with you that that's insane. Why is Trump fighting his return to the country? Why is he going after law firms that represented people he didn't like? Why is he going after Miles Taylor, Krebs, and now Chris Murphy? His DOJ is horribly weaponized. We'll see about that. And since we elected to use the systems, got to let the systems kind of play out and see what happens. So I trust that they have a lot of legal minds within this administration, and they probably have a strategy or an answer to all of this, and it will come out in time. So keep the accusations flowing, because I think that's how you keep government honest. But so far, it seems that the judicial branch is being used as a weapon in every direction. So maybe the epiphany that we have on the other side of this is maybe we shouldn't have Department of Justice being used as a weapon, because that means people you like and people you don't like have access to use that weapon. And I'm truly against using the systems to target people. Julie says Trump announced that citizens may be deported to El Salvador. Yeah, I don't know. And in local connection here, we actually have 13 ICE criminals that are being stationed in a Youngstown jail. They got commissioned and contracted to house some. We knew that there was going to be millions of these people that were going to be rounded up, and we knew we didn't really have the facilities to be able to warehouse these people. Sending them over to Gitmo or Venezuela or whatever, I guess that's satisfactory for the high-end criminals, the people who are really causing disturbances. But you don't want to do that to people who are just here illegally and get caught in that same net. So local jails seem like they're going to be contracted out a bunch. It's going to be a big industry, and I'm extremely suspicious when you have an industry of warehousing people and people are making money in private, prisons. That's just not going to be another corrupt machine that the government controls. And man, I don't know, it scares me. Let's see, suspected. Trump has announced it. Says, okay, so thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. And yes, that you kind of got my feeling on due process. It'll kind of work its way out and see what applies to non-citizens at the end of this. And, I personally, I just don't feel that, citizens should be ultimately protected by using all of the benefits of the Constitution. And non-citizens, I would have a tough time applying citizen benefits to non-citizens, especially if they first part of their relationship was breaking the laws. You have to have respect. In order for the Constitution to respect you, you have to respect the Constitution, and breaking the law is not a good introduction. Joseph says they're getting rid of so many illegals, they have to change the child labor laws. I don't necessarily listen. I don't know what laws they're changing. Oh, I know what you're talking about. So reducing child labor laws so that it fills the roles that illegal immigrants. I feel a lot about that. If we were dependent on something that was illegal, then it was inauthentic. Just like if we were buying iPhones that had lithium batteries in it that a 10-year-old dug out of the ground and died shortly after, that was inauthentic because they're breaking all of our EPA regulations. They're paying them next to nothing. So the cheap lithium that we were getting wasn't real. We wouldn't want to subsidize that kind of thing in a foreign country. So when you produce it where you pay your people well and it's done by EPA standards and it's done clean, then you get a real feel for what that product should cost. So subsidizing illegal labor, child labor, poisonous toxins that are put in the environment, I don't want to be part of any of that. So, all right. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. All right. Anything else happening? Because I feel like we did due diligence on all of this. You got anything else?
No, man.
So something, Joseph says, do you know anyone who's going to pick tomatoes? I know. This is going to be awesome. Robotics, automations. So I've watched some of this agriculture, these machines they put in the fields, and this stuff is getting really good at being mobile, moving around in the fields, picking the harvest. And there's one human being in the frame. The person driving the truck around the field to collect all of the stuff the machines were collecting, it was a person, but that person can even be replaced by a machine. So the sort of the pressures of automation are going to really come in when you don't have a person to run a job. You come up with a solution, and we already have all of the technology to make that happen. So that's my answer, is that it won't be a human being. As soon as I think every job that can be replaced by a machine over the course of the next 10 years absolutely will. Just like there used to be people stacking boxes in warehouses, right? Now you have automation that's picking the boxes and putting them, labeling them and getting them out for there. So it's possible. So we're already doing it. So much for bringing jobs back. Real jobs, like things that have specialties, things that we actually have a person that wants to do the job. Everything else we can just do automations for.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how much technology takes over a lot of things over the course, and I know it's going to, but yeah, there's going to be a lot of jobs. Like I said, if these are jobs that people that generally don't want to do, and the argument is, you can't get rid of illegal immigrants because they do all these jobs. Well, yeah, you're going to automate, like you just said, automation is going to take over a lot of it.
Yeah, and it's not 100% all of them. So like, let's just say you're on a line, and your job is to take a riveting gun and rivet two pieces of metal together, right? And the whole time you got to be thinking, machine can do this really easily, and in the end, that's exactly what happened. But there are other jobs that require the skill or the finesse or something of a person. So if I'm going to pick, do you think the riveting guy was a little upset when he got replaced by a machine? For sure, but you kind of know when you're doing the job whether or not this could be done with some software and a mechanical arm or something like that. And it's really not. It's not going to happen across the board with 100% of the jobs, but it will definitely happen. Let's see. We hear nobody wants to do that. When all these machines replace people, what do we do for income? I think what happens is you get another level of specialization, because with every new introduction, so like when you went from horse and buggy to car, it's a more complicated thing that needs more service people, that needs insurance companies, and needs supply chains, and needs assemblers. Like, you have the birth of new jobs that come with those jobs, but they're higher tier. So do you expect everybody that lives in the United States, right? Used to be, you come out of high school, you didn't have to know a whole lot. You can go to the mill and they can give you a job where you're doing the rivets, right? It was 100% of the people could qualify for that job. And that was good, because then somebody can make a decent living and not have to develop any kind of specialization. I don't believe in the information age that, just like the driver's license things, I think anybody can go get a specialization if there's something in demand. I don't think anything at this point is beyond the reaches of somebody graduating from high school. And if it is, then our high schools need to be dissolved and create people who could get into the workplace. Let's see. We hear nobody wants to do that job. In the same breath, way to bring back job. Never happy. Yeah, it'll find a balance. I'm sure, and nobody's gonna be totally happy with it. We paint the picture of when AI and robotics are taking over anything, and you got human beings that would be willing to do that work, that somehow the progression is that those people will just be out of the loop. And then, okay, so here's the only picture that's ever been painted for me that I can halfway see this. Tell me, just waterfall this and continue this train of thought, okay? So let's just say that we take all service jobs, and let's just say there are 10 million people doing service jobs. And we're like, hey guys, we're going to put machines here that are going to do what you were doing before. We're going to do what you were doing before, and all of you are out of work. But we are going to put a tax on it so that maybe the thing is 3,000% more efficient than a human being. So the person that owns that machine and picking that crop, their labor cost goes down to almost nothing. So we're going to issue a tax on all automation machines. So that farmer will be paying what the cost of that machine is, plus a tax on utilizing that machine. Then you take that tax money that came from automations and you give a minimum, like a minimum wage to everybody who was replaced. So a check comes in, they have enough to be able to buy their house and whatever. And now they can do other stuff, or they don't have to do anything altogether. So all you had to do was qualify as having been replaced by something. And then you've managed to take all these people that will wash out of the workforce and giving them a little platform to stand on. Anything can go bad in that scenario?
I mean, aren't we seeing that a little bit now? Like with Doge and with all the buyouts and everything else like that too. We're kind of seeing that a little bit now,
right?
I don't know exactly how that would. I get what you're saying, but I don't know exactly how that would work long term.
Well, short term, you'll take it because the temptation to get a buyout from your government job and get 8 months of wages are like, well, I'm going to be able to sit home and collect my wage, right? But I think the one missing element from that is a lot of people start to decay when they don't have purpose. So sitting around watching TV is fun for like the first 3 days. And then you're like, what am I supposed to be doing with my existence here? I need to be developing things. So I think it almost might force the issue of people getting into a new passion, into a new specialization. It might be a catalyst to actually get some people to graduate from what they were doing before that they were just okay with and into something that they can truly do, because all of my minimum stuff is paid for by the replacement tax that came through on my old job. Now I've got like 2 years that I could develop something else and do something I really like, because there's no downside. If you do a passion project and all your needs are being met elsewhere, you have lots of time for that to either be just something I love doing or something I shouldn't be doing anymore.
Well, I think that would work if people didn't, go kicking and screaming into anything new.
Yeah,
that's the flaw. That's the flaw in that.
Yeah, but if it's forced, if you have no other choice, if you see it happening to other people, I mean, it's almost like, oh, you're going to give me money for 2 years because I've just been replaced and I could do anything I want? Really? Cool. Let's do that.
Yeah, I guess if it's forced, you have no choice. Then yeah, then on the other side of that, people are going to get into new, are going to develop new skills and get into new things. But yeah, and if it's not forced or whatever, or if it's just because just general people, we've talked about this before, but people hate change with anything. So
right, kicking and screaming though, you're absolutely right on that one. Let's see. They call it labor for a reason. CEOs hate paying people, period. That's what Reagan gave us with the service economy. And that's how the jobs left along with Clinton and NAFTA. I think we lost our manufacturing jobs for one reason, is the world became very small as technologies allowed us to trade and send things to people as well as buy them. When you look at the logistics between sending goods across the ocean and still making it into cheap goods when it ends up on your shelf, that's amazing to me and what it is. And the people that were, I think Democrats specifically, they have a hard time adjusting to things changing, right? That things are going to get better, more efficient, faster, more evolved, and whatnot. But they plan for everything staying the same for all time. They want to do that with net neutrality. This was an initiative maybe 5 years ago where they wanted to make into utilities broadband internet. In their minds, they were like, we got broadband. It's really fast. Let's cap it. Let's remove the profit incentive and distribute internet. And the rest of us were like, whoa, hold on. We're going to need faster internet in the future because we once had 56K modems and now we have 400 megabits per second internet. I guarantee that we're going to want to go a jump faster. How are we going to get to the next innovation? If you cap it off and say, this is just a new standard and I want to be, I want to be moral and help people to be able to get internet at the same time, you remove profit from it. And so if we allow the evolution to stop and cordon off and think things are not going to change, then that's when the innovation cycle happens. So back to what this whole tariff thing, big gamble, but it gives us a chance to stop, right? The stuff that was easy and logistically sound and still put stuff on there and then come back and say, okay, well, got all these people in the United States. A lot of them just haven't, just didn't have a profit incentive to do anything or make anything. Give them a chance, see if that works out. And we get a new crop of entrepreneurs who are willing to put something in, invest in the economy, something work out, and then you could buy from them on the local side. So that's my answer for that. And let's see. When you have cheap labor, have cheap labor, the Americans can't compete with 50 cents an hour. Yeah, that's what I agree with. We can't subsidize cheap labor that we would not allow. Like here would be one of my tariff requests. Okay, anybody that does business with the United States, we will buy your products if you conform to all of our standards. Your labor rates are the same, your EPA regulations are the same. We'll sign an agreement with you, but we're not going to take advantage of someone willing to work for $1 a day and then pretend like, we're not complicit in, the slave trade of manufacturing and labor. So here comes I skipped one. Okay, so there is now 4-hour wait to ask a person a Social Security question. Insulin is on the manufacturing hold. Blood thinner has gone up 200%. This now my life, thanks Trump. Okay. Oh, there was a 4-hour wait before Trump. I've had to call government offices and Social Security offices. And what Musk pointed out a couple of weeks ago was a majority of the fraud that would happen would be someone would call Social Security line and they would hijack someone's Social Security check and change the depositing bank. So that fraud was happening where they were manipulating the phone lines. It was nice and easy for grandma to call and adjust some things, but bad actors were taking advantage of that and robbing people's Social Security that way. So now they cut that system out and they're going, I 100% can guarantee that there will be a new system to do that is more secure, that doesn't allow the bad actors to come in and steal your money.
It's another thing that technology should take care of.
For sure.
Like we have the technology to do that right now. So yeah, it's one thing tech should eliminate a lot of these problems.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. So here comes the automation. Why bother bringing jobs back at all? And like I mentioned, there will be a good set of jobs that are necessary for human beings to do, and not lumped in with the jobs that human beings should not do. And you can go out in public, and when you're looking at chefs and waitresses and someone working on power lines and whatever, you can pick out the ones that you could totally see a robot doing. And those are the ones that you're going to have to pick out, and they know it too. And so it's not an all or another proposition. It's going to slowly be replaced. The ones that can be automated will.
Well, there's change with everything. I mean, I worked in the newspaper industry for over 20 years. Yep. You know what I mean? You see newspapers dwindling because people are getting their information from other sources, and newspapers were reluctant to change, and now they're
100%.
gonzo. Like, they could have been on the forefront of internet, and they could have been on in digitizing their model. They didn't do it. They waited way too long, and now that's why you see, legacy media struggling so hard, especially in the newspaper industry. But yeah, it's a change. You know what I mean?
And they fought against it,
evolve.
And they lost it. And anytime you prop yourself up and stop innovation from happening, you lose. So if you hear everybody saying, hey, jobs that can be automated will, right? Then you and your brain have to say, I've got to make some adjustments, because I don't know if it's next year or 5 years from now. I've got to be the one that makes the adjustment, because you're not going to push up against that one. It's already, the genie's out of the bottle on that one.
It's the way of the world.
That's it.
Things evolve. You know what I mean? It's just, It's the way of the world.
Sorry, the right always cries fraud, then withholds money, makes matters worse, then privatizes everything and steal it blind. You have to give me specifics on that. Generally, I don't know. Well, let's see. Many people don't have time to wait. A plan first would have been a good idea. Broken systems sometimes require, evacuating the systems and rebuilding it, especially if it's really broken. And I have a feeling when they look through these systems, if I know government well enough, that it was really broken. People working on it thinking, how does the system even work? And the answer was, it wasn't working. So yes, there's going to be people that definitely get disruptions in those weeks. And I feel for them, but I don't know how. Your choices are: leave it go and let it be broken, because nobody wants to mess with the security of other people, or fix it, which long-term benefits everyone, but short-term disrupts the flow of that, those benefits to people. So not, definitely not an easy choice for sure. Should SNAP beneficiaries be banned from using their benefits to purchase junk food? 100%. There should not be any, I would expect the government is not allowed to send you poisons. And every time they give you the ability to buy on the public dollar poisons that make you unhealthy, that should be an assault as far as I'm concerned. And I don't know if you provide the food so that you take choice out completely. I would much rather a crate of food shows up that somebody handpicked because of their nutritional value on it, and then people get to eat, versus giving you a card just like you would, a teenager, and say, go make wise decisions. I don't trust that wise decisions are always going to be made. And especially if the taxpayer paying for it, what would the taxpayers choose? Do I want to send you poisons, or do I want to send you stuff that actually makes you healthy?
Yeah, there should be at least some sort of regulation on that as far as what you can buy with that. I agree with that. I don't know if if it should be all out. I don't know if I would go like that hard, but you shouldn't just be able to go buy a bunch of crap with your SNAP benefits.
But limiting, and that's why I say, maybe contracting with agriculture and farmers to instead of having a grocery store base, that farmers, agriculture provides all of the food that goes out to people. Because what happens is, if you buy a bunch of junk food, your grocery costs are higher because all that processed stuff just costs so much money, and you get no nutritional value. If you buy stuff from the producers, local agriculture producers, it's all nutritionally dense. And so it doesn't cost as much, and you get better nutritional value out of it. It's a no-brainer when you look at the math behind what they should be doing, and it should be nowhere near, because think of the grocery store, what they have to do. Let's just say you put a limitation on how to buy some stuff. So now you're going to make grocery stores pick out items and put a little checkbox next to them, the ones that you're allowed to buy with your SNAP benefits. Do you know how many products would be gray area products where you don't know, is this junk food? Because a lot of stuff, you and I shop the grocery store, the ring around,
Mhm.
right? All the good food is on the outside. All the processed preservatives, terrible food are on the rows inside. So if it were me, I'd be like, anything that's on the outside is SNAP appropriate, and you could buy from that area. And then how long is it? The grocery store lobby comes along and say, hey, you know what? Pop cereals, I think that should be on the outside. It qualifies now, and there's going to be such a push to have my product be part of what's an acceptable purchase, and then other products aren't going to have that ability, and they're going to be on the outside. So that's why I say agriculture is the best way to do it. You take grocery stores completely out of the process.
But cookies taste so good, Joe.
Yes, they do, but you're poisoning yourself. Don't do that. All right. Good deal. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. Have a good weekend, everybody. Next Monday, we're going to be doing a special fundraiser. One of the local schools, I believe it's the quiz team. Luke and Isaac and Jeremy and I are going to go up against kids that are very good at asking or answering general knowledge questions. 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade knowledge questions. And my feeling is we're going to be decimated. We're going to have our asses handed to us by a bunch of kids, and they're going to love it. And so we'll be live streaming that next Monday at 6:00. So make sure you tune in 9:00 on Monday, and then later on in the day for that fundraiser. Have a good one, everybody. This has been Youngstown's Talk.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.